Guys, this episode is specifically dedicated for the people who want to grow their career in fitness industry in Middle East. So today I've invited a very old friend of mine. This guy is like a legend in my industry.
My name's Ryan Thomas. I've been in the fitness industry just over, I'm going to say 21 years now.
We want to create a roadmap for the people who are watching this, specifically from my country. So we would like to have a detailed breakdown if somebody wants to start a career in fitness in Dubai, let's say.
The first thing is kind of passion for movement. You've got to be in it for the love of making change.
Successful trainers are the one who connect with their clients.
In theory, you're selling a dream.
How many hours a personal trainer can work?
Regardless of how good you think you are, I think the quality will diminish by the time you get to that last session.
What are the best institutes available in this part of the world to get the certificate to be eligible to work?
So there's obviously a governing body here called REPS. You should look for a personal trainer, a level 3 certificate.
What would be the approximately cost to do L2, L3 plus reps?
So between 4,000 and potentially 7.
What is the duration of these courses?
But in theory, you'd be able to get through them in about 3 months. I'm going to teach you something, I should be able to do it. And I need to be able to do it.
So great coach success is when his client is doing better than him. What is the average earning of a personal trainer? Welcome to the Raw Conversation with Adnan. So I've been getting messages and so many people come to me asking about career in fitness, whether it is a personal training or any kind of administration. Something in fitness, especially in this part of the world. So today I invited a very old friend of mine. Since I came to Dubai, I made a few good friends and one of them is here. This guy is like a legend in my industry. He worked on floor, designed programs, handled clubs, worked in head office, you name it, he knew it. Like everything. So I would like to welcome Mr. Ryan Thomas. Welcome.
Thanks, Syed. Really appreciate you having me.
So why don't you introduce yourself? Let people know about you.
Okay. So my name's Ryan Thomas. I've been in the fitness industry just over, I'm going to say 21 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. I started fresh out of school in South Africa, worked for an amazing brand called Virgin Active out there. Developed through a couple of positions and then was recruited by a really big brand out here to get into sales and set up some opportunities for them here. And then shifted from a couple of brands to a couple of other brands. Had a tremendous opportunity to work at a very large-scale regional role with some very, very talented people like yourself.
Thank you.
And, here we kind of are now. So that's pretty much 16, 17 years in Dubai now. Very familiar with the
fitness
region.
industry.
Well, yeah, in the wellness space. I have shifted twice. So I have been doing some different things, but traditionally the majority of my career has been in wellness. Yeah.
In wherever club we go, we find somebody who you taught some kind of classes or lessons.
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing about the industry out here is it's very tight. So the people you get to meet with, the people you interact with are very dynamic, and you already develop tremendously good relationships with people here. So yeah, I've been very privileged to interact with a lot of good people.
So Ryan, as you know, I wanted to explore and we want to create a roadmap for the people who are watching this, specifically from my country, and like people who want to come to this part to make more good career, make more money, to have something in their life.
Yes.
So we would like to have a detailed breakdown if somebody wants to start a career in fitness.
Yes.
Let's take an example of a personal trainer.
Yes.
What is the roadmap as per you to start career in MENA, like Dubai, let's say?
Okay. Well, I think traditionally the first thing is kind of passion for movement, because there's obviously a number of different styles in terms of exercise. As you know, perspective on exercise changes virtually every 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
One thing's right this time and then it's not right the next time. So I think as long as people are initially very passionate about movement, that's key number one. The next thing is obviously education. The UAE and obviously the GCC have a tremendous opportunity in terms of setting up the right quality of education from an international standard, and it's just making sure that you're connected, or that you're investing in the right education platforms to make sure that you're qualified in the UAE, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Traditionally, anything that is visible and accepted in the US, the UK, Australia, South Africa, and pretty much anywhere else internationally is a really good brand of product to be with. And there are some tremendously good platforms here that you can do that with. And then I think the third thing is you've got to be in it not just for kind of progression, but you've got to be in it for the love of making change.
Exactly.
You know, no change. I think change is so important because I think in the fitness industry, you change so much.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you know, obviously our journeys by themselves. I think about when we were kind of flat out peak at a very dynamic kind of regional level. My training is very different now.
Yeah.
And so is yours.
Yes.
To what it was then. And I think the focus is always shifts. So I think those are the big things. You got to have passion for movement and understand that there's no real right or wrong. You've got to get into a stream of what you like and a stream of what you feel is really good. And then you develop kind of a process from there. And then obviously get aligned to the right forms of education. And then obviously you need to make change. You need to
So
want to make
basically,
change.
point one, you need to love movement,
Yeah.
fitness, education,
Yes.
like correct certification.
Yes.
And third is
And then it's obviously passion for change.
passion for change.
Yeah.
Adaptability.
Yes.
Like whatever the change is, current adaptability.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need to be flexible to the idea that potentially what you believe in now will be different,
Exactly.
you know, further down the line.
Exactly.
And so will people, right?
Yeah. Since I left our old company,
Yes.
and I created at least 3 different companies for personal trainers.
Yes.
And now it is a part-time work also I do when I help other trainers to build their company.
Yes.
I realize I have learned this pattern that the successful trainers are the one who connect with their clients
Yes.
with a different approach.
Yes.
That's how.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about like?
So I think the primary perspective of actually really good PT is qualifying the user. So you almost need to take a very kind of baseline sales approach to qualifying if the person actually wants to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the fitness industry, for example, anybody that's in sales are so good at selling packages or concepts to individuals coming in because in theory, you're selling a dream. You can look like this, but I can't tangibly give you anything.
Yeah.
So Saeed, you want your 6-pack? No problem. This is how long it's going to take. This is how many hours you've got to put in. This is the restrictions. This is your lifestyle. This is how many hours I need from you over a period of time. And there it is. But
Yeah.
I'm not physically giving you Saeed's
Yes.
body. Right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a huge opportunity to kind of leverage really quality sales training
Yes.
to help PTs get ahead. And what I mean by that is I'm not selling a product or a dream. It's more about qualifying why the person wants it.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to exercise.
Exactly.
Okay, it's what we're built to do.
Yeah.
It's just like everybody needs to run, regardless of kind of whatever state they're in. The body is designed for movement.
Exactly.
And you know, everybody needs to be in a position where you can find out why they need to move better and how to make them move better.
You need to make people understand why you have to do this.
Correct.
When I train my team,
Yes.
I always tell them like, see, selling is done. That's
Yes.
one shot.
Yes.
What about next?
Yes.
Human connection
Yes.
with your clients.
Yes.
That's I think is one of the thing which most of the trainers they don't understand. They
Yes.
look for like to sell more.
Yes.
Where if they have a good human connection, you don't have to push the sales. The
Completely
sales
agree.
you will automatically get. You will
Yes.
get renewal after renewal.
Yes.
You will get more reference,
Yes.
and the people will get more better result.
Yes.
From my point, it's always the result which speaks.
Yes.
No matter how good is my sales pitches,
Yes.
if my client is not getting result,
Yes.
and again, the result means it's not only physical.
Yes.
Sometimes they don't get physical changes, they don't lose weight, but the lifestyle start changing
Yes.
drastically because they lift weight and they train, and this automatically impact your mind.
Yes.
So this thing, human connection,
Yes.
understanding and listening power
Yes.
in personal trainer is very important.
Yes. Completely agree.
Okay,
Yes.
when client is talking about the bad day in the office,
Yes.
and still you listen and you try, you make them do the reps.
Yes.
That's the best quality the personal trainer can have.
I agree.
Correct?
I agree. I think the other thing that's also really key, especially long term, is fostering building a good relationship.
Yes.
So initially, that client or that customer or whoever you start to train in the beginning, they have a perspective on what they want to do and what they want to be. And it can be quick, it can be slow, it can be whatever they want it to be. But I think over a period of time, once they start to shift physically, everything shifts.
Yeah.
If you can change physically, the hard stuff is easy because you can change physically. If your body is healthy and your body is strong and you're mentally free and light, the other stuff doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything.
Because worst case scenario, something goes wrong and you can pick stuff up. You can run down the street. If you're being chased down the street by a tiger, you get away from the tiger.
Yeah.
You know, so the big thing I think from a physical change is the right support to kind of build that physical change. And I think for the customer and the client, I think the big thing for them is to have somebody that really listens and that really can drive out what the result is. So, you know, it's an investment from a customer's perspective, but it's also an investment from the PT's perspective because
big investment from PT's side. Yeah,
because the PT has to be neutral enough not to take on the customer's perspective too much, and the PT has to be neutral enough to also make sure that they can see a light towards where the customer needs to go.
Exactly. This is a great point.
Yeah.
I understand that and I made mistakes in my being a coach myself few times when you listen to the client said stories again and again and again, and you became a part of that story.
Yes.
And then you stop pushing them and you forget where you have to go, where you have to take the client.
Yes.
The amazing part. And it took me some time to understand this pattern.
Yes.
Where there are some clients who will keep coming and saying the same thing, and you become the part of it.
Yes.
And you forget the motive, why exactly what are you doing here.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a great point here. I agree. So let's talk about the roadmap.
Yes.
The first one is what you said. It's the passion.
Yes.
Second, education, adaptability.
Yes.
Third, human connection or
love. Yeah, the obviously human connection, and then I think really kind of the primary thing kind of at the end of that is to know what to kind of do next.
Yeah.
So even if from a PT perspective, it's so valuable to be a tremendously good coach your whole life.
Yeah.
At the same time, then you might get to the point where you think, well, oh man, I can do something else and I can do other things. I remember when I was given a pretty big role for myself. The reason I wanted this role so much is because I was doing all these things internally from a club perspective, and I thought I could expand what I could do across the business. But not from the purpose of revenue. I wanted things to be easier. I wanted things to be better. I wanted, customers to have a better experience. I wanted, PT and staff to have, and especially coaches, to have an easier life. It shouldn't be like challenging. It should be, they come in, they're motivated, they're at ease, they're getting the right recovery for themselves, and they're providing the best quality experience for the client. Right?
Yeah. So coming, I'm going out of topic, but since it came, what do you think, on average, how many hours a personal trainer can work?
Okay. So that's a really good question. So I think, and I've seen, and you've seen a ton of this, and obviously I think having worked for really tremendously well-structured companies out here, I think we've seen, PTs do in excess of 14 to 15 hours a day, right?
Yes.
And I think there's huge room for it not to be like that.
Exactly.
Because I think that there needs to be enough balance. I think over a period of time, regardless of how good you think you are, I think the quality will diminish by the time you get to that last session.
Month after, yes.
And if that's what it's like 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, it can be very addictive, because when you're helping people and you can see progression, you want to see the progression all the time. And you're responsible for that. Yeah. And it's a direct result of what you've done for the individual, which is great. But the balance really kind of needs to be there. And on the other hand, depending on the client you're with, you could work 3 hours a day.
Yeah. You can charge more.
Yes.
You can give a better service.
Yes.
Better product.
Yes.
Well designed.
Yes.
Result oriented.
Yes.
And you can deal with 3, 4, 5 clients.
Right.
And you're good, and you're spending time on yourself. Like you're recovering, you have a good body, you have a good mind.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not that easy in
No,
this.
I think there is great value of understanding volume of work.
Yeah.
Because I think, and as you know, I think once you can get through a solid week of having conducted a certain volume of sessions and got really good results for those people, you kind of get to the end of the week, you're like, okay, well, good, that was a great achievement. But the volume is not just one client. It's the client and all their thoughts about everything else on top of that you also have to gauge and support, right?
Yeah.
So if we have a tremendously good session, we're communicating, I might spend another 2 or 3 hours speaking to you.
Yeah.
But on top of that, I might have another 6 hours of work, 7 hours of work, 8 hours of work. And then I've got the same sort of volume from a communication perspective. Yeah. So if the client base is tight enough, and what I mean by tight enough is it could be between 6 and 20, depending on what it looks like. Obviously, people will come and go, and there are always referrals, and there'll be new people in and new people out. I think that's a manageable process, and as long as the structure of the program per individual is tailored appropriately and really consistently for what the customer can achieve from that, I think that's kind of ideal for what it is. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, let's get back to the roadmap thing.
Yeah, sorry.
We can talk on this topic for hours.
Yes.
Okay. As per you,
yes,
what are the best institutes available in this part of the world to get the certificate to be eligible to work for any reputable company?
Okay. So I think the first thing to kind of look at is to look at the existing governing body. So there's obviously a governing body here called REPS. And it's really valuable to be associated with that, just from an international perspective, because if you were in Australia or South Africa or the UK, you would need to be connected or associated with the governing body.
Okay.
And that's step one.
Okay.
I think they will help guide you in terms of what your existing kind of qualification process is. And I think the bigger perspective is you need to kind of go into something that you really love to do. So if you love, for example, group exercise, there's a number of different platforms here, especially educational platforms and businesses that do tremendously good at group exercise processes and education. But more importantly, they don't just do, for example, traditional group exercise.
They're always something new.
Yes. So they take you through a functional process.
Yeah.
They're very specific on kind of timing, HIIT-based activity. If you look at, obviously, CrossFit as an educational perspective is absolutely fantastic. And the reason I say that is because they really understand programming. So from a programming perspective, they really understand the process of how to drive and build in a program throughout the week. At the same time, depending on your perspective, it's really good to add additional body part specific processes or movement specific processes to that, because there's so much adaptability in terms of movement and exercise. And then I think from a PT perspective, doing any form of international certification, so aligning to, for example, to NASM, ISSA, and the other kind of international governing boards, just making sure that you connect with a platform or an educational platform out here that does that. And there are some tremendously good platforms out here.
Can you name some?
Yeah, Body Hack, for example, down in Abu Dhabi, they're tremendous. MeFit Pro have some tremendously good platforms too, especially from like a post-education perspective. So, and what I mean by that is sometimes you'll do your primary education process or certificate, which might be PT or group exercise.
Yeah.
But you don't know how to pick up a kettlebell.
Yeah.
You don't know how to do weightlifting. For example, CrossFit as a brand have a number of different products on the back end. You don't necessarily need to be CrossFit level 1 to do those things, but you can learn how to do Olympic weightlifting from a
So these are the courses available physically here, or these are digital courses?
So they're digital courses and physical. And the trick is just to align with the right websites and right timings to do that.
Okay.
I think everybody should do some form of Olympic lifting course, even if you don't like it.
Yeah.
And the reason I suggest that is because it helps you understand full range of motion and movement.
Yeah.
At one point or another, somebody's going to come along and say, "Oh, can you do this?" And if you don't have that skill set, it doesn't help you.
Correct.
Mobility is also very important, because I'm not talking about stretching. I'm talking about time and attention. I'm talking about how do I activate certain muscle groups. If I have a certain range of motion that I can't get past. What else could I do? And there's a brand called Stick Mobility. They do tremendously good stuff. And then obviously you've got really kind of tremendously good functional products and functional courses. Akiro, for example, they do a really good product. And there's a couple of other products just from a functional perspective that are really, really good for you. So anything that's kind of kettlebell based, grip based, aerobic capacity based, those are really, really good things for you to understand.
Many courses are available.
Yes.
Thank you for this information. So there's one Akira.
Yeah.
And Body Hack,
Yeah.
MiFit Pro. These are some. I'm gonna mention more names. I'll give my input in the description of this video. Let's assume that I'm a fresh. I've done basic work in India. Let's say I came from India, Mumbai, and I've done some course from India, which is not recognized by this market, international market. Now, if I want to work as a personal trainer, beginning level, let's say, what course, what certificate should I go for? Like, what is the name of that course I should go for?
Well, you should look for a personal trainer, a level 3 certificate. That's
level 3, L3.
Yes, you can do a level 2, but transparently you're going to have to do level 2 and then level 3. Right? So traditionally, we'll take NASM, so the international, the US provider, which is kind of the gold standard on movement. NASM provide a number of different speciality courses, and they obviously go straight into a level 3 process because they want you to make sure that you're kind of at the right level. You
know the basics. You can work on that.
Yes.
And once you are level 3, you can be registered under reps online.
Right. Yes.
And then you are ready to work for any company. With few more things, I think, what you call, the one you do, first aid. I'm sorry. First aid. And then you are eligible to work for any gym or any good company.
Correct. So first aid is essential. Obviously, registering 4 reps in the beginning would be essential, and then having an internationally certified certificate would be tremendous.
Just an average idea, what would be the approximately cost to do L2 and L3 plus reps?
So if you were looking at kind of an L2, L3, it'd be anything between dirhams.
Yeah.
So between 4,000 and potentially 7.
Yeah, 4 to 7.
Yeah. Depending on the level. There are some institutes here that have really, really good products and they charge more.
Yes.
So they charge about 8.
And instructors as well, I guess, because a lot depends on the instructor.
Correct. The other thing is depending on if you're a brand associated, so for example, if you're Les Mills associated, they have a series of programs that you've got to be aligned to.
But for doing level 3 and level 2 also you need to be, it has to do with anything to do with the Les Mills or any of this body?
No, not from that perspective, no. But if you wanted to be group exercise qualified, you would need a group exercise qualification.
Okay. So around 4 to 7,000 in between you can do?
Give or take.
And how much is the reps?
Reps is about, I think it's about
400. I guess I remember 399 something a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Correct. Okay. And how much time? What is the duration of these courses?
Well, it depends on what the blended learning process is. So some companies they do a process where you learn online and then you learn physically. But in theory, you'd be able to get through them in about 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah.
So if somebody is coming from India, they need to spend 3 months before they legally work as a personal trainer. But
it could be shorter than that. It could be, it just depends on what it is.
They can work as a trainee in some gym and they can slowly, gradually do the certification and start. Right. Because of course, with the brand, they need to understand the product, what exactly the brand is all about.
Correct. There are, for example, there's some brands like Fitness First, for example, that have an in-house academy that'll take you through the whole process.
Exactly.
So you could, in theory, join them, actually become qualified, even in a different role.
Yeah.
And then kind of move your way forward. There's also, independently, like PT companies like Enhance, which obviously operate out of several gyms, Gym Nation being one of them, tremendously good gym.
Yeah.
And Concept. So Enhance obviously will help develop PTs within that space. You've got to be qualified to kind of get access, but within their framework, man, they do some amazing things.
Enhance.
For PTs, yeah.
Okay.
So Enhance do tremendously good things. Yeah.
They have grown pretty big.
They're gigantic.
In just a few years.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Yeah. They're massive. It's very good, yeah.
That's why they have a good potential for personal trainers in this part of the world.
Yes, and I think what they're very good at too is they're aligned with really good key locations.
Hmm.
So customer locations are great.
Hmm.
Venues are fantastic.
Hmm.
And then the other thing is like they like progression. So there's a number of people that will literally start and then they can progress quite easily. For example, like Warehouse Gym, which is a brand that I really love here, is they've got tremendously good, talented PTs.
Yes.
Transparently, I don't think a lot of them come in fresh off the plane, if that makes sense. I think a lot of the guys at Warehouse Gym are very experienced.
Very experienced.
And that's why they're there. And at the same, for example, Train SF or Strength and Fitness, they've tremendously good PTs
It's
out of that space.
next level of fitness, next stage, because there you will find more experience,
Right.
freelance,
Right.
like they are walking brands of themselves, like
Right.
they don't need any brand for them,
Yeah.
they are the brand, so
Yes.
that's how it is.
And the same with, for example, like WellFit.
Yeah.
So WellFit, if you look at those PTs, all of those guys, the education on those guys
Very
is
well
unbelievable.
trained.
Yes.
Like, I agree on that.
Very structured, very processed. And the only reason I pick that up is because when I'm in the gyms, I listen and I can hear the
Yes.
coaches communicate. And I think that's the big thing is like, there's depending on which door you kind of walk through, you can hear the coaches be
You get
really
the vibe.
specific.
You get the vibe.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if their coaching feedback is tremendous and you can see the clients really in it, even if the clients had a terrible day, that coach has led them through that whole process, that hour front to back, and they're done. And they're like, wow, and that's kind of where it is.
Yeah. So basically, again, coming back to our topic is 4 to 5,000 dirhams.
Yeah, 4 to
fees.
7.
Yeah, 4 to
depending-
7,000 and like around 2 to 3 months journey, and you are ready legally. You can work.
Yes.
Any recommended places to work
Yes.
for somebody sitting far away from here?
Yes.
How they know which are the organizations to work for?
So, from my perspective, I think the brands that are really kind of tremendously forward thinking here are definitely like WellFit, Warehouse Gym, Fitness First. Fitness First from a learning perspective because they have such reach within the region, and more importantly, like they're very structured.
Yes.
So you learn, you go through processes, you're good to go. WellFit because they're very inclusive, they're very tight on who they kind of employ, and more importantly, you can grow expansively within their framework. They're very open to making sure that people get aligned, getting through the right education, and they just have tremendously incredible facilities. And then obviously, Warehouse Gym is just like, from my perspective, if there's not there's every PT in Warehouse Gym is in shape, and every PT in Warehouse Gym is not just in shape, but they're athletic. They can do what they tell customers to do. And they're, always expanding, and they're busy and happy and very motivated. You'd never ever see a grumpy PT at Warehouse Gym.
So with my experience, of course, Fitness First, I will put on the top tier because I came from there, and not even being directly into fitness, I learned a lot about industry.
Yes.
And as you said, well-structured learning and development team and courses, and it's always in-house.
Yes.
Every day there's some type of course going on. The people who are working there, they understand fitness, not bodybuilding, like the right concept, right mindset. And one more thing I want to mention, like since we work in Fitness First, and now I go out to different clubs, I always see Fitness First people everywhere, from management to reception to just like that.
Because it is such a good school.
Such a good school. So you can learn a lot from there. Good instructor, good people.
Yes.
Agree with I think the business model wise and with the current strategy, how the market dynamics are, Warehouse Gym is doing pretty well.
Yes.
I guess the sales pressure is a little less. The trainers are more relaxed and more happy, I guess.
And they train.
They train a lot. So because I'm working there, so now I watched it. So I think that's WellFit. I have not trained that much, but I know the people who are running the show, so I'm very much sure what you're saying is right.
And all of those guys are fit too. Again, when you walk into WellFit, you're always like, wow.
See, this is the key fact. You practice what you preach.
Yes.
If you are a trainer but you have a big belly, that's why, Ryan. I never came into this fitness until I was fit.
Yes.
So I knew the thing. I know how to coach people. I know how can I help them.
Yes.
But when I myself was not fit, I never have the courage to go and say, okay, Ryan, you have to do this because I can't do myself.
Yes.
Then I started when I adopted everything on myself,
Yes.
now I can probably say, okay, we have to do this, we have to do this.
Yes.
I understand that.
Yes.
So I totally agree on this point. A
Yes.
trainer need to be not super fit, but fit.
Like they have to be able to do.
Exactly.
You think about like, and I'll obviously chunk things up. If you look at like there's a documentary on a platform which talks about the fastest runners in the world, right? 100 meters, 200 meters.
Yeah.
Right? And those guys are like just insanely gifted, but more important, like their work ethic is just tremendous, right? All of their coaches are fat. It freaks me out. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying that I have to do 100 meter sprints in 9:58.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting to me that the majority of those coaches are sitting on the sides, barking orders at people, and those tremendously like incredible athletes that are running 100 meters, sub 10, crazy speeds. They're being coached by these people that are so out of shape. And obviously their coaching skill is so good that those guys rely on that, and those girls rely on that. And obviously they've got tremendously good communication process and structures on how to get those people forward.
Yeah.
But I always see great value in if I'm going to teach you something, I should be able to do it.
Exactly.
Okay. Now you can do it better than me, but in the beginning, I need to be able to teach you, and I need to be able to.
So great coach success is when his client is doing better than him. That's what I believe.
100%. 100%.
The one word you use, communication. So when we were talking about personal trainers, I remember our discussion.
Yes.
You specifically mentioned communication is the key.
Yes.
So can you talk about that?
Yeah. So I think an overview of communication is this: is you need to qualify why that person wants to be there.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, if you don't qualify why that person wants to be there, that person's not going to be there.
Yeah.
Okay. And qualifying the person, you kind of need to get to the root cause of why they want to exercise.
Yeah.
And then you need to pin that. So for example, if I want to exercise because I'm depressed, because I don't feel good about my body, because I don't feel strong enough, because I'm working incredibly long hours and just can't seem to get enough time in, you need to pin the reason of why that person wants to be there.
Yeah.
Right? And you need to revert back to that reason frequently to help the person understand that this is why we've started and this is where we're going to take you.
Yeah.
And if you can move that person from that existing reason to start training to wherever they want to go, then that's kind of everything.
Yeah.
The other thing is, when I say communication, is you don't need to go into detail on the science about why we're doing the movement.
Right.
You will get a variety of customers that want to know, for example, a very kind of like train the trainer perspective of you work with different colored people. So what I mean by that is blue, red, green, and yellow. They all have different personality types. And for example, depending on what color they kind of fall into, and this is not specific or important, but some people want to analyze everything.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this movement? How am I doing this? Am I doing my rep range? Da 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 da. It's not necessarily their job to know that.
Yeah.
But they want to know. You'll get some people that just want to come in and just exercise. Don't talk to me. Let's just get going. I don't want,
Yeah.
But you still need to know why they're there.
Yeah.
So a kind of key thing from a coaching perspective is to be able to really communicate to the person to kind of catch on to why they want to do something. And more importantly, to create stimulus on a movement. So for example, if we were doing a squat, what muscles are we going to use? I don't need to go into tremendous detail on, are we using quads, hamstrings, and glutes, and this is the position of your body. I just want to focus on specific things. So slow on the way down, fast on the way up. Want to focus on squeezing the right muscle groups, tight through the belly. Where do I breathe? Why am I doing this? To get stronger.
That's it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And it's learning how to communicate from a cueing perspective that will make PT's life so much easier.
So much easier.
Yes.
Yeah, I think in my short career of training the trainers and dealing
short.
with them, so I realized there are some trainers who have a lot of information and they don't know where to, take out.
Yes.
So when they're training a client, like the client don't want to know the whole science. They just, okay, tell me, I'll do it right form. And they just keep talking and keep talking. And then the client come to me. This guy talks a lot, man. Like, I'm here to tell him about my
Yes.
story, and these guys talking about the science. So
Yes.
I'm keep teaching them.
Yes.
Guys, tell them what basic they need to know.
Yes. And then listen.
Yeah, and listen, they're not here to educate themselves on
Yes.
fitness.
Yes.
It's your job,
Yes.
and you need to make sure that they are safe
Yes.
and they're getting the job done.
Yes.
So, right point.
Yeah.
Coming back to our topic,
Yes.
what is the average earning of a personal trainer?
Okay. So collectively, depending on which brand you're at, and if we just looked at the kind of top three, you could probably earn quite comfortably between, 7 to 50. And I'll put 50 out there because there are some individuals making really, really good money,
Yeah,
depending on where they work and what they do.
yeah. So, big range.
Yeah,
7
huge.
to 50.
Yeah, it's huge
Yeah.
range. The big thing about being in the region is you, like anywhere else, you need to understand
Yeah.
what your costs are to be here.
Yeah,
You need to understand the value of your time,
yeah,
and then you need to understand kind of input and output.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I'm investing X amount of hours training clients, what's my minimum return
Yeah.
on that?
yeah,
And then, how's that going to get me ahead,
yeah,
right? And again, there are some really, really good brands out here that are very well structured from a commission perspective and,
Yeah.
and a base salary perspective. They do really good things. Again, WellFit is a tremendous platform to be at from that perspective because they really kind of they know what's out there, they know
Mhm.
what's available,
Mhm.
and they've really structured things really well
Yeah.
so that you could be the very best you can.
yeah.
be.
Because that's how you set your standard.
yeah,
Yeah. So, since I've been in this going around and checking things and helping trainers,
Yes.
they come to me. I've seen people charging 70 dirham a session, and
Yes.
I've seen people charging 2,000 dirham a session.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
And to be honest, I've seen people more qualified, more good in technical training charging
Yes.
70 dirham,
yes,
and other way around, like
Yes.
people who are charging 2,000, 2,500 a session.
Yes.
Not.
yes,
But they know how to sell their product.
yes,
And also they know how to value their time.
and communicate.
Communicate. Yeah,
Yes.
the whole product,
Yes.
the communication is part of
Yes.
it. I think I agree with you. Around people start with 3,000-4,000,
Yes, to initiate. yeah.
but on an average, not a superstar trainer. Someone who is starting new and is good in his work can make around 12 to 20,000 in first few months.
3 months at least.
In
yeah.
first, yeah.
Yeah.
And then later on is the story.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, coming up to the journey of a personal trainer.
Yes.
Because I more specifically want to focus on this part. What is next after personal training?
Okay. Well, that depends on obviously the direction you want to go in, right?
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. When I was a PT, Virgin Active in South Africa, I would look around kind of the room, and there were some tremendously amazing PTs. One of the guys was called Chris Scott. Chris must have been in his late 50s at the time.
Okay.
Chris, you couldn't book a session with Chris.
Okay.
Okay.
He was 50.
Yeah. But you
Okay.
couldn't physically book a session with Chris.
It's always full.
That's how popular he was. And,
Yeah.
and if you wanted to book with Chris, you had to book 3 months in advance.
Okay.
And Chris understood everything about everything. He understood positions, tempo, process. He knew like nutrition was exceptional. Like he just understood everything about everything. And he was unaccessible because he was so good at what he did.
Yes.
And more importantly, his client base was so like, we're with Chris. I'm with Chris, right? And the reason I'm sharing that story is because you can be a coach forever.
Yeah.
As long as you see value in it, and as long as it's good for you, and as long as it's something that you want to do, you can be a coach
Yeah.
forever. The next kind of phase is you might get a bit of an itch to kind of help people or make things easier.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get an itch to kind of help people and make things easier, then you've got to look at kind of moving into a semi-management role or assistant management role within that kind of framework.
Yeah.
There's great value in that because you all of a sudden have access to some tremendously good engines, that have really good structure, that will help you understand business and people and process and a bunch of other fantastic things. And then kind of from there, you could go into an operations direction,
Yeah.
or you could go into a really kind of skill-based direction where you only want to focus on products,
Mhm.
fitness concepts, one of the best roles I've ever already had was designing facilities.
Yeah.
I loved that because I could look at what products I liked. I could go test product and say, I don't like that. I think this would be significantly better, especially from a range perspective, because there's so many different variations on product, especially equipment, and they're not designed for everybody. And I think it's more about having a passion for kind of what you do. So do you want to make things easier? Do you want to make the environments better? How kind of further do you want to progress externally? Like, in theory, you can go anywhere you want to go.
Yeah.
You know?
So basically, it's a vast industry.
Massive.
It depends on what are your likes. You can stay coach forever, or you can move to a business side or technical side or anywhere.
Yeah, even my own personal journey, I started in reception, right?
Yeah. You started as reception.
Receptionist, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So and that was a part-time position for me. I was fresh out of school, didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I wanted to start PTing, so I studied.
Wow.
Then I started PT. Then I got into sales. Then I was very good at sales because I had the PT element and I understood, and I have some tremendously fantastic mentors and coaches, like Dirkie Britz, who was a tremendously good regional manager, and Stuart Kruger, like these amazing salespeople that could sell. We could sell anything. And we got to the point where it wasn't just about sales, it was about being competitive. But the whole process was to really kind of figure out why the person wanted to be there. And once you tuck into that, everything was kind of out there. And then obviously, I think having kind of an overview scope of those key departments, it's easy to progress into operations. Because once you understand where the money's coming from, how to like manage the customer base and how to provide the best solutions and product for the customer in the space, then you can run the team. So that's when you move into that GM role that's quite comfortable.
Yeah.
And then once you've been in that GM role and you kind of like, you look at everything kind of externally and you're going through the whole processes, you're like, well, how do I make everything else better? How do I get what I want, right?
Yeah.
And then you go from there into a regional role and kind of build things up externally.
When you gave an example about what's the name of the successful personal trainer you were talking about? In the beginning?
Chris Scott.
Chris Scott. So I have kind of a similar mindset now because I've done other things already in my life. A client of mine asked me, so Adnan, what is next? Because now you started this, you're doing good.
Yes.
What will you be doing after 10 years? I said, I'll be coaching.
Yes.
After 20 years, I'll be coaching.
Yes.
So my idea is to now on is because I love what I do. I like to help people. That's my only intention to come in this profession now, just to help and try to make some positive impact. So I said, I'll be doing this rest of my life. I don't want to get into business model again where I'm only running numbers. Yeah, I'm making money. I'm making decent, good money. But that's not the first part why I'm doing this. Now, for me, it's lifelong coaching because I've come other way around. I've done the different roles in fitness industry. Now, this is where I find myself.
And your journey's actually been really good because obviously you've gone from that very number crunching process to kind of a really holistic now, actually the doing on the floor, being in that experience, which is tremendous.
So that's it. That's how it is.
And I really think there's great value in being a coach. I don't coach out of many places anymore. I do coach out of one place, which is absolutely fantastic for me because the caliber of coaches that are there are incredible. And the structure of it is incredible. But I find that if I don't do it, it's like I miss it. I miss it a lot. You know, I like
you need to get back into it.
Correct. Coaching people is something that is just kind of in it.
So I got some question regarding fitness because I personally follow you. You have suggested me many great things and I follow them. So let's have some quick rounds, quick questions. Top 5 supplements.
Okay. A really good protein of any kind of source that you want it to be. Creatine, arginine. I think arginine is really important. The right type of like, I want to say Omega, like Unbroken, for example. That's a tremendously good brand that people could use. And then caffeine.
Caffeine?
Yeah.
I live on caffeine. My blood type is caffeine. Top 5 exercises.
So, clean and jerk.
Okay.
I would think anything from a push or pull perspective, so a pull up or an incline bench press. I love doing any form of like incline. any form of pull, so high pull or press, and then anything that's kind of body weight. So like I like to box, I like to run, I like to be as physical as possible. So yeah, I mean, variety. I can't actually answer that question appropriately.
Okay,
Sorry.
you have seen me training.
Yes.
I'm like a very traditional, old school bodybuilding bodybuilding type of training.
Yes.
So I'll give you my 5
Yes.
because number 1, squat,
Yes.
deadlift,
Yes.
pull-ups,
Yes.
bench press,
Yes.
military press.
Nice.
I believe if you do these 5 movement,
Yes.
you have covered almost everything.
Yes.
Like almost.
Yes.
And if you do it with the proper range of motions,
Yes.
the chances of injuries is almost like 0 because everything is covered there. That's
In your mind. I think the only other thing you need to add to that is carrying something.
carrying something.
So if you pick up a sandbag, for
Yeah,
example, there's great
yeah.
value. My son is 20 kgs, right?
Yeah.
And if I put my son on my hip and I put my daughter's only 10 kgs on the other hip, that's 30 kgs combined, right? In that position, there is a huge volume of like functional fitness applied in that particular situation. And I think carrying stuff is like
It is
the
next
thing
level
that you could
Yeah,
do.
I understand this. The farmer's walk, the briefcase walk, and these
Stairs,
things.
just holding something.
I learned about this in a Spartan race when I was carrying this sandbag and
Yes.
going up and down. I said, "Shit, man,
Yes,
that's
yes.
so difficult."
Yes. And I mean, that's everything. Grip, forearms,
Yeah.
it's tremendous.
Okay, best time to train.
Personally, morning for me. I like the morning. Transparently, I train anytime.
Anytime.
So,
Same here.
yeah.
Same here.
So like, you've seen me at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And then I will train at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
It's where the gaps are for me.
Yes.
So it's
It's about consistency. I cannot miss the workout. I'll
Yes.
just
Yes.
agree on that. Agree
And
on that.
I think to get it done first makes a big difference to me personally, because if I get to the end of the day, I haven't moved. I'm like I want to break something. So that's.
Top food to build muscles.
Well, I think it's more about like understanding like calorie intake versus output. I think that's kind of the big thing. I think obviously protein's primary. I think obviously generating a good volume of like the right types of carbs, so like your sweet potato, brown rice, things like that. I think that's great, really valuable. Obviously eating the right kind of green leafy products is also good. But I believe in meat.
Yeah.
And I believe in like 2 to 3 grams of protein per
2 to 3 grams of protein
per kg.
per kg. Oh,
Right. So
that's
my whole focus every day is that.
good.
So I don't really care about the other stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
But there are a
interested in.
number of people who are vegetarian, like
Yes, but
due to certain beliefs.
Correct. And you can still get protein from.
So what I did
Yes.
in the beginning of the year, because many of my clients are vegetarian.
Yes.
Though I know technically by book that with vegetarian diet you can build muscle.
Yes.
But from internal I was not sure.
Yes.
So what I did from
Tested
first Jan to 90 days, I've
Good.
put myself on 100% vegetarian diet, 0 eggs, nothing, like
Good.
nothing. But I did pretty good.
Yes.
The transformation was pretty good.
Yes.
I do believe personally,
Yes.
soulfully, I believe in meat.
Yes.
But both things can work out if you have a proper guidance. You can work out both.
Yeah.
things.
And I agree. I think it's just making sure that you get the right volumes of protein
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
And whatever source you want them to be based on whatever your perspective is.
Yes.
But I really believe that, especially as you get older, having the right volume of proteins
Is
crucial.
very important.
Even in I'll put it out there. My son's 3.
Yeah.
I make sure that he gets in at least 2 grams of protein per kg.
Mashallah.
Right? So, kids doing 40 grams of protein a day. Now that it doesn't sound like a lot because that's like a meal,
Yeah.
right? But he's 3.
I'm sure after 10-15 years when he will be watching
Yeah.
this video, he will be proud of you. He will be anyways.
But I wish I understood that when
Yeah.
I was in my teens.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
example, I wish I had that perspective on
Yeah.
the value of protein, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ryan.
no problem.
This was a great discussion.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do a couple of more to cover many things because there are many topics we can talk
Yeah.
about and share more information. We can valuable your knowledge and we can share with people.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Guys, this episode is specifically dedicated for the people who want to grow their career in fitness industry in Middle East. If you have any question, you can drop me a message or I will be tagging Ryan as well. So you can drop him a message and we will be doing few more session hopefully if Mr. Ryan will get time
No problem.
more on fitness, more on supplements and more on recovery and more on fitness industry. What's next coming in 5 years, but that will be next time. Thank you.